What's up, guys? It's Dom again. Just finished top 32 at the YCS in Los Angeles, the 250th. Um, I'm pretty happy with how I played. Sadly, it didn't pan out for me. I lost like an unwinnable game in top 32 to one of the Australians. Hats off to that guy. He played really well. We got Snorlax, and we got our new Snorlax with his unfazed fat, just like me, and Bakugo with his latent skill. But with that being said, let's get into the cash profile. Still played 3 Unicorn, 3 Fenrir. They're the only good monsters in my deck. Played Ogre. I did not play preparations this tournament, so this card was like slightly worse. We only made the it wasn't in my deck like for a while. We only made the concession. Me and Mike Albanese played the same deck. Me and him made the concession to play it over the third Book of Moon in our deck Thursday night because it made like locking 5 much harder without playing this card, and we weren't sure like against like some of the trap decks or like the Runic Naturia deck, like if that was going to be something we like wanted to approach post side or not, or if we were just going to do this other new play that we started doing this weekend, which was like double Rise Heart instead of locking any zones. It also made that easier, so it was like a fine concession to play this card, but going forward, there's a world where I like wouldn't play it again. It's like a terrible monster to draw. Then we played 2 Rise Heart. I know that a lot of people have started to play only 1. I feel like playing 2 is fine. I feel like this is normally not the card that like bricks my hand. Like when your hand is bricked, this card could be a contributor, but this card is normally the one that will turn on like any of the other cards you bricked on, because the bricks in the deck normally involve Birth, Theosis, the Scareclaw guy, which does not contribute to what I'm saying right now, this Ogre, and then like Birth and Theosis, and like when it's Birth and Theosis because you have no other monster. This is a card that plays with both Birth and Theosis, so it's like not a terrible draw. I also feel like playing Pod Desires, it wasn't a card I wanted to like banish my 1-of copy all the time. When I knew I was going second, I would side one out. But like for a deck that already bricks, this card like somewhat helps consistency because it helps play with like the other cards you would normally brick on. And then also with all the kaijus and stuff in the format, like at Vegas, I never really needed to, and it would have been more acceptable to play 1 at Vegas. But now, like when my Rise Heart's getting kaiju'd and like this isn't getting banished, it like ends up in my graveyard and stuff like that. Like it makes it much harder to get it back off of Theosis, and like birthing this is not ideal all the time. Like especially if your board gets cracked and you're just like gonna birth a guy, you want to birth like one of these because they like do the most on their own. So like I didn't want to just like lose my 1 copy of this card forever and like put myself in a scenario where I could no longer win because I didn't have like a good enough monster to search, and that's like why I felt like I needed to play 2. Sorry if that was like a little long-winded, but I'm like feel pretty strongly about playing 2. And then the 1 Scareclaw guy, this card's just so good, like for what it is. Obviously breaks, but you can't cut it. You need like one of the extender ones, in the tier cash guy's unplayable, and this card outs like Baguska and a bunch of other stuff like helps beat Dragoon. That was it for like my engine monsters, and for like the engine spells, played 4 Planet, and I played 5 Pots. This was again like the problem for the deck was bricking, so you add like more consistency cards, and the thing is like even if this card doesn't draw engine, it's gonna end up drawing like multiple non-engine, which hopefully lets you live another turn if you like went first and bricked. Because like going second, you like get an extra card at least. If you bricked, and then you probably have non-engine. So like hopefully they didn't put up anything too oppressive, and then like your 6 card unbricks you, or like then you get to see like a 7th and 8th card with this card going second, and like the chances are you still being bricked is like pretty low, but it does happen sometimes. Then played 3 Theosis, 3 Birth. Again, these cards are bricks on their own, but like they're self-explanatory. They make the hands you can play so much better, and they play with cards like Rise Heart, so like they're not even like that bad to draw a lot of the time anyway. And like for like a grind game, like this is the best card you can draw in the grind game, and you need this card in your deck in the grind game to be able to like play. So you can't really play less than these. And then you still have to play Big Bang. This card sucks, but you have to play it. There's like not an option. Then I played 14 non-engine, played 3 Ash, 3 Mourner. This card was the only new addition to my deck from Vegas. It was just like I felt like back row removal cards and evenly matched and all of that shenanigans like ended up being a lot more was going to end up being a lot more popular for this tournament, as well as like when you play the Despia deck or you play against the mirror match, a card like Fenrir, or in the Despia deck like them branded fusioning against just your Rise Heart and like summoning Lubellion and trying to Dragoon you. This card is something that stops that, which is like their only way to win once a Rise Heart and like everything is set up. So that's why this was good. And then also against the mirror, like their monsters, the Fenrir is like pretty naturally oppressive versus you going second. But if you Rise Heart it, then like they get an opportunity to try to play their deck. So like having a card like this is a perfect answer because this card can't even get lanced. So I felt like this card was really, really good in the mirror when you went first, and it was fine. Like it did like the same thing as Imperm going second the majority of the time. I just couldn't draw it as my 6th. And then it like made Baron against all the decks it was dead against, so that was fine too. And I played 3 Imperm still. These 2 cards are just so like generically fine that there's nothing better, because like every non-engine card in the format sucks against something, and these just suck against even like all 9 of these. I could even group this card in with this. The 9 of these cards suck the least against everything. Like they're like fine across the board, and your like side deck makes it more specific, and your engine is also like really good generically, and a Rise Heart deals with so much that you can afford to play less impactful non-engine and still win. And then 3 lands is just like books are more popular now than they were in Vegas. That card is like destruction for this deck when you're going second. Like that card really can just end your turn. I was worried about some stuff like Floodgate, Trap Hole, etc. in Swiss, as well as like the Runic decks. This card helps against those as well. And then the 39th and 40th cards in me and Mike's deck was Book. This card was really good in the mirror. It's like really mediocre against everything else is kind of the problem. Like even in the Ashuria deck, like ends on Nat Beast going second a lot of the time now, or like going first a lot of the time now. So like a card like Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse doesn't even like deal with something or trade 1 for 1. It is just like a card that bleeds. And then Lance is also like in every cash person's deck now, so the card gets worse going second. But it was still like the next best non-engine card we could play that was like diverse, like impactful enough going first when it wasn't like removed, because there was no like good hand trap that was next in line that we felt like was okay against everything. So this was like okay against everything, and it was really good in the mirror, which is like what we expected to play the most against once we got the top cut. So that's why the last non-engine card was Book, and that was 40 cards. Then for the extra deck, played both Fossil Guys and Goliath. I didn't play Garura at this tournament, which is a shame because Garura was so good in Vegas, but Psyframe Gear Gamma has gotten really, really popular since Vegas, so I feel like playing this card is almost necessary, just to like not like if you can avoid putting yourself in like the really rough position of like avoiding like the prosperity into gamma thing that like a lot of people are playing. It's not even like a specific deck. Then there's no reason to like not commit the one extra deck card to give yourself a chance to just beat that. So that's why you have to play that. And then these cards, I felt like it was like ridiculous to only play one and not the other, because they're like one has bad, like they both have like matchups that they are better in. Also, like when you prosperity, both could just be banished, and then it ends up like so much better than the Tis. Also, these cards both can banish themselves again, like from the grave, so they like naturally recycle themselves. And then the like point of playing Garura is you like see two cards. You see like the card off Garura, and then you see the card for turn. So like ideally, one is non-engine, one is engine, and like the non-engine card, which is like your additional card off Garura, is able to deal with a card, where these cards guarantee deal with a card, and you just have to like have engine. And these cards guarantee deal with two cards, like a lot of the time, because they normally come together. So that was my reasoning on my prosperity targets. Then we played 3 Rise Heart. You just can't play 2. Like, it makes it really awkward to hand trap the deck. It also makes it really awkward. Like, if you're first to Rise Heart against like the cash deck, like the Kashmir, like gets outed. Now like they like if they have enough monsters to Diablosis, they like hit the side of your X deck. Your deck like no longer has a threat at all. You just can't win. And like this gets Fenrir'd a lot of the time when it gets outed in the mirror. So, or it gets like their Rise Hearted. So like this one's normally face down as well. This one's face down. You have no way to like even try to get them back with Theosis. Also, if you only play 2 and you like Ash something while Unicorns face on the field, they rip this, then they Diablosis this if they could play through it. Now your deck just has no threats from turn 0. Like you cannot not play 3 of this card. You have to play 3. Is your deck's win condition is the best card in your deck. It's why every deck has to play Kaijus. Like it's like going back in the Zoo format and you're like 2 Dryden's good enough. Like why? 2 Shangri-Ira. I do not think I played one match where I summoned 2. I never locked more than one of my opponent's zones the entire tournament, which I know everyone was calling me the zone locker this weekend, but promise I was not an offender this time. I played 2 Zeus. It's just you have to play 2 because of Diablosis. The card's like self-explanatory. Back down to 1 Diablosis. I just the game plan for this tournament was not to lock zones. Like when I was playing in the Nib at the last tournament, I was trying to lock zones. At this one, I wanted to do something different, which I'll upload a video on how to do the double Rise Heart combo as well. But there's just not a reason to play 2 of this card if you're not trying to lock 5 zones all the time, or trying to like lock zones again on the crackback. Like there's no reason to play more than 1. 1 Big Eye, again, there's no reason to play more than 1 of this card. Like games where you get Diablosis, it's like almost impossible for Big Eye to be your win condition anyway because their board is so wide. So if you're playing 2 Big Eye, it's because you're afraid of them Diablosis ripping 1. When like if they make Diablosis and like are locking zones, and like going wide with their board, like Shang, Arise, like this card's no longer a win condition anyway. You shouldn't care if it gets ripped. Then Dark Armed, Donner for like if I play against Plunder deck, they give me token, or I play against Ibli, like have a way to beat it. And then Baron because I played more hand traps. I played Moonlit Chill, so you like have to play this card. Then 3 Dimension Shifter. This card's pretty self-explanatory. I played Dark Ruler this tournament. It was for 2 decks, or 3 decks actually. It was for the Traptrix deck. because like the Trap Tricks decks that I had like seen were going like Redoer, Rafflesia, Sarah, and then like one set. And I was like, if I ruler that, like I'm probably able to deal with a Floodgate Trap Hole with 5 cards, hopefully. So this deals with the rest. Then the Sprite deck was getting really popular because it won Mexico, so I wanted to have a card for it. And then the Naturia deck was also getting really popular because Christian Urena like keeps doing well with it, and others. And they just like summon Nat Beast against the Cash deck because you play like 20 spells. This card like beats that as well. Then I played these cards instead of Evenly Matched because Evenly Matched, I truly believe the text of that card to say banish every card your opponent controls except the one that beats you. Shout out Ryan Levine. And like if you use your battle phase to play Evenly Matched, now you no longer are able to use like Fenrir as a tool to bait. So it becomes like really rough to out the last card if it is something good, which if they chose to keep it over everything else on their board, it probably is. So these cards ended up being much better. You're able to like clear all the back row and then probably only have to deal with an Arise Heart with 5 cards in your Cash deck, which, you know, Arise Heart maybe game against everything else is a mild inconvenience for the mirror, which makes the mirror the matchup to worry about the majority of the time. It's also just good against like the back row decks. You might just blow them out. Then 2 Cosmic. So I would have played 3 if the siding pattern like warranted it, but the siding pattern only allowed for 2 Cosmic, which is why I only played 2 Cosmic. But it was really good in the matchups that I sided it for, like the Runic Naturia deck. It was a card that came in. Against any Runic deck, it was a card that came in, and then against like the back row decks, it also came in. It was fine every time I drew it. In top 64, I caught Cosmic his Fountain, and it was very good. And then going first cards, I played 3 Magic Deflector this time instead of 3 Barrier. I felt like Despia would be a lot less popular. Barrier is not great in the mirror anyway. It's like okay. The little monsters do enough, like forcing stuff out anyways and clearing a board. So Barrier is like just okay. And if you get like Evenly or Stormed or whatever in the mirror and you chain Barrier, like you have to turn off your Arise Heart. That's just like not ideal at all. Deflector turns off the field spell, turns off Birth, turns off quick plays like Books, Lance, and it also turns off all the Runic cards. Like it turns off every single Runic card, the quick plays and Fountain, and it just hits so much. Like hitting Birth and the field spell in the mirror, like in just their engine, and then hitting like non-engine cards they play as well is just pretty impactful. The card was really good for me. And then we side decked the 1 Preparations again because the side pattern allowed for it, and it was like after our side pattern was like almost done. There was 14 cards in our side deck, and we like had 1 more spot in our deck that we could side for going first. And playing like Trap Trick for a Magic Deflector didn't make sense because Magic Deflector was like a card. Magic Deflector was a card that was like meant to chain to something. So like you would have to like shotgun Trap Trick for it, which even with your deck playing like Desires and stuff like that, you might just turn it off. And then like this card's like not even good in every single matchup. So like playing another copy of this card like didn't seem great, and playing like random Solemn Judgment didn't seem great. So the card that we decided we wanted to play was Prep, because we were already playing Ogre, and this card's like really, really good against the Naturia Runic deck. When they're able to negate a Rise Heart, then like they like pitch Sacred Tree, this card starts hitting cards out of their hand, and then they like can't keep up. Or you have this with like the Scareclaw guy in your hand, and then even if your Rise Heart gets Kaiju'd, you're able to like Scareclaw banish the Rise Heart from your grave and then bring it back. And it being macro is like good enough against a lot of decks anyway. That's like what happened to the Drytron guy I played. He like volcanic queened my one of the Drytron guys I played. He like volcanic queened my Arise Heart, and I like scare clawed and then brought it back, and then couldn't beat Macrocosmos. Shoutouts, biggest shout out definitely goes to Mike Albanese for building the deck with me and staying with me, and like all around just had a great time with that guy all weekend. That's my man's. He got top 16. I was hoping that he would win, but did not, which is unfortunate. Also, shout out to Cancel who did well, and Silverman. Still riding the high with them from the last tournament, which was awesome. And then shout out everyone else in the UA chord. Everyone's always so helpful. And then another huge shout out goes to Matt Rivera for letting us stay with him this weekend, and he was like an awesome host. Love that guy. And the final shout out goes to Top Choice Gaming for being my sponsor, and they're great. They always like lend me whatever cards I need and help me out with travel and such. And those guys are the goats.